Lay his bodybuilding into Hollywood stardom.
I like acting very much, so maybe I can have a new career there, who knows.
It was a long shot. The bulging physique that had served him so well in competition had nothing to do with the traditional Hollywood handsome.
This is something else that I wanted, because I said, look, he's not going to be, wearing briefs and flexing on The Tonight Show. And he said, I'm not asking him to do that. But the fact is that he is known for the fact that he's got the body that he's got.
In the old days, the audience knew the hero was big and strong because the script said so.
That's the man I'm after.
I remember when I first started acting in the early 50s, not many actors worked out at all.
They did it in a certain way, the way they walked, the way they jumped on a horse, and all those kind of things. They sold how studly they were.
During the 50s and 60s, you could get away with murder. You say, okay, Superman had the muscles sewn on.
As Arnold was trying to figure out how to fit into the Hollywood mold, director John Milius was trying to figure out how he could bring the comic book Conan to life by casting a bodybuilder. For Arnold, the timing couldn't have been better.
If we didn't have Arnold, we'd have to build him.
Suddenly, Arnold found himself the star of a big-budget Hollywood movie. But now, the muscles weren't enough. There were acting lessons, riding lessons, swordplay lessons, and diction lessons.
3,333 1/3 the fine wine it grows on a vine.
Sure, he would have doubts about whether he could do things, but he always would have the doubt of somebody climbing a mountain that's halfway up. How are we going to get there? Yeah, we're going to get there by climbing up.
Conan the Barbarian was a smash hit and put Hollywood on notice. Though you didn't have to be built like a bodybuilding champion, it was definitely time to get in shape.
Arnold comes along and the bar gets moved from there to there.
We, the movie makers, just try to find clothes, a costume to put on this extraordinary elemental creature, this giant.
I'll be back.
I mean, it really kind of set a standard that said if you're going to try to come off as something on the screen, you gotta have the goods, and it's not all about your stunt double.
Shirts came off, and there it was. There was no hiding. There was no, like, holding the stomach in.
It's body.
In the 80s, the studios produced a string of action movies all starring muscular heroes. Audiences, weary of the sensitive 70s, ate them up.
We were like the new action heroes of that era. All of us had one thing in common. We showed the physical development.
We love cheering that because we can appreciate, we in our hearts know what it takes to get that.
Man wanted to go to see a movie that had tremendous action, where they could sit back and say, wow, yes, he takes care of the job, and kind of live through you in a way.
I think they were movies that celebrated men.
I know it certainly inspired me, because here's a guy who's kicking ass and taking names. But the Predator especially, stepped to the plate and said, just bring it. And it was great, especially at the end, come on, kill me, I'm right here. Kill me, do it. Come on, kill me, I'm here. That's fantastic.
Now being strong and muscular was not only okay, it was celebrated. A new generation raised on action movies hit the weights in order to avoid being called girly men.
Where's the Bob? You are.
I think people were being swept away by the films subliminally, and then all of a sudden it just hit.
Hey, Arnold, look at this. Yeah, how about this?
Oh, you guys make me sick. This is what you have to do, like this.
Suddenly, it seemed everybody was in shape. From a few darkened gyms in the early 70s, an entire multi-billion-dollar industry erupted. Normal, everyday people were signing up in droves to tighten, tone, shape, and sculpt at fitness palaces filled with gleaming chrome muscle-making machines.
Bodybuilding and physicality became kind of like a hip thing. It's okay to be proud of your body.
And even people who didn't necessarily want to be as big as Arnold Schwarzenegger, who didn't have any aspirations of becoming Mr. Olympia, but just had aspirations after seeing him about getting in the gym and saying, you know what, I just want to get in shape.
And it's not only men pumping up. In movies, muscular female stars are now in on the action. In the fashion world, magazine ads sell pecs and abs as much as they do underwear. Rock icons have gone rock hard, hiring trainers to turn them lean and mean. In sports, athletes who have been told for decades to avoid getting muscle-bound have learned better, because big means strong, and strong is good. So boxers are now trained by bodybuilders, as are athletes in tennis, basketball, even golf. Professional Olympic teams hire strength coaches to build brawn, but it's not only athletes. Remember when the elderly thought lifting anything heavy would cause a heart attack? No more. Study after study shows that strength training can improve cardiovascular fitness, strengthen bones, increase flexibility and balance, even fight diabetes, arthritis, and depression.
Millions of people are involved in exercise programs that involve strength training, aerobic exercise, high-protein diets are the craze. Arnold was doing that back in the 70s and the 60s.
Bodybuilding, once a subculture of maniacs, is now so much a part of our culture, it's hard to even remember when we thought lifting weights was weird.
He made it very, socially acceptable. And, pumping iron certainly was the pivotal moment in the history of that.
I had no idea that it would catch on the way it did, so that was a total surprise. I wish I could say, I knew all along, but that's not really what really happened. I still look back today when I talk about it like right now and reflect. I say to myself, how did it happen? I mean, how could that become a reality?
Coming up next, the film that launched the movie career of Arnold Schwarzenegger and helped jumpstart the fitness revolution. Pumping Iron. And stay tuned after the movie for an exclusive behind-the-scenes look at the making of Pumping Iron, including never-before-seen outtakes from the film and current interviews with the cast and crew.
About the time when I first saw it, I was like mortified, saying, oh my God.
He is absolutely acute at being able to figure out an individual's absolute weakness and then put a sword through it.
You know, maybe I went a little overboard.
And now, the documentary that started it all, remixed and remastered, Pumping Iron.
There was no way of knowing it at the time, but a baby boy born in Graz, Austria was destined for great success. His father pushed him into sports so he'd develop a strong sense of discipline and determination, a trait that evolved into the pursuit of excellence in every aspect of his life. He played soccer and competed in track and field events before discovering his true passion for weightlifting at the age of 15. 3 years later, he began training as a bodybuilder. By the age of 20, he'd won the title he'd been aiming for, Mr. Universe. That baby boy had grown up to be the world champion bodybuilder with the unforgettable name, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Of course, he'd wind up being one of the biggest box office names ever. But back in the 1960s, when he had dreams of Hollywood stardom in his head, Schwarzenegger first had to move to the United States. While earning a business degree from the University of Wisconsin, he continued to compete in bodybuilding, winning an unprecedented 13 world titles, including Mr. Universe, Mr. Olympia, and Mr. World. With a growing international fan base, he was ready to launch his movie career. In 1970, he landed a small role in the aptly titled Hercules in New York. He got a second break when director Bob Rafelson cast him with Sally Field and Jeff Bridges in Stay Hungry. Arnold won not only good reviews, but also a Golden Globe Award for Best Newcomer that year. But it was the critically acclaimed 1977 film Pumping Iron that captured Schwarzenegger's charisma, his naturally engaging personality in front of the camera. It's ironic that a docudrama about the Mr. Olympia competition finally allowed Arnold to put his own bodybuilding career aside and pursue acting full-time. Next came a Western comedy, The Villain, pairing Schwarzenegger with Kirk Douglas and Anne Margaret. And then he played Mickey Hargitay opposite Lonnie Anderson in The Jane Mansfield Story. But in 1982, he really made his mark, starring in director John Milius's adventure film Conan the Barbarian, with Arnold playing the mighty medieval superhero from the Conan comic book. The film grossed more than $100 million worldwide and got Hollywood's attention. With the sequel Conan the Destroyer, Arnold's reputation as the new big-body action hero was growing. Soon after becoming a naturalized American citizen in 1983, Schwarzenegger took a chance on a low-budget, independent film by a relatively unknown writer and director, James Cameron, a futuristic thriller starring Arnold as one of the most terrifying villains in movie history. The Terminator was a runaway box office hit, cited by Time magazine as one of the year's 10 best films. It powered Arnold onto Hollywood's A-list. Over the next few years, his name was virtually synonymous with the term action hero, and he starred in a phenomenal string of crowd-pleasing and money-making hit movies, including Commando, Raw Deal, Predator, The Running Man, Red Heat, and Total Recall. Schwarzenegger had another dream, tapping his talent for comedy. The result was the 1988 movie Twins, in which he starred alongside Danny DeVito, with Ivan Reitman directing. The trio had a reunion in 1995's Junior, which got Arnold a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actor in a Comedy. He returned to action in a big way in the blockbuster Terminator 2: Judgment Day. 7 years after the original hit, T2 was one of the biggest grossing films of the decade, earning more than $500 million worldwide. Schwarzenegger continued to anchor box office hits: True Lies, Eraser, Batman and Robin, Kindergarten Cop. He went behind the scenes to direct The Switch, an episode from the popular HBO series Tales from the Crypt, and the TNT remake of the holiday classic Christmas in Connecticut, starring Diane Cannon, Chris Christopherson, and Tony Curtis. In 1999, Schwarzenegger starred in the millennium thriller End of Days. In late 2000, he released the science fiction action picture The Sixth Day, and in 2002, the thriller Collateral Damage. In 2003, he opened in one of the most eagerly anticipated sequels in history, Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines. Down the road, Schwarzenegger's looking at James Cameron's True Lies 2, plus a Conan sequel, and a remake of the classic Westworld. But with all the heat and hype around his bodybuilding and Hollywood careers, Arnold Schwarzenegger says his most gratifying accomplishments have come from his humanitarian work. He has been international weight training coach and global ambassador of the Special Olympics, the athletic organization founded by his mother-in-law, Eunice Shriver, for citizens who are mentally disabled. He was appointed chairman of the President's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports by the first President Bush, and Governor Pete Wilson made him chairman of California's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports. Then in 1991, Schwarzenegger began a term as executive commissioner of the Hollenbeck Youth Center's Inner City Games in Los Angeles. He saw firsthand how this after-school sports and education program helped inner-city LA kids become winners, building the confidence and self-esteem that allowed them to say no to gangs, drugs, and violence, while saying yes to hope, learning, and life. he decided to take the after-school program nationwide. In 1995, Schwarzenegger established the National Inner City Games Foundation, now called After School All-Stars. To date, the After School All-Stars program has reached hundreds of thousands of kids in more than 400 schools in 15 cities around the nation. It offers competitions and clinics, computer labs, and education, career and sports programs, not just academics, but competition and fun. As national chairman, Schwarzenegger puts his stardom and influence to good use, traveling around the country, meeting with local government and law enforcement officials, educators, administrators, and children. The goal? Getting kids off the streets and into after-school programs that provide a safe, supervised educational environment that's fun. The latest after-school All-Stars project is Arnold's All-Stars, an organization dedicated to providing specially designed after-school programs for middle school kids. Schwarzenegger points to the many research studies showing that in communities with after-school programs, there's a lower incidence of juvenile crime, drug abuse, gang activities, and teen pregnancy. In 2002, Schwarzenegger put his muscle where his mouth is, creating a ballot initiative, the After School Education and Safety Act, Proposition 49, which California voters passed in November that year. Prop 49 will make state grants available for quality after-school programs in every public elementary and middle school in California. Arnold Schwarzenegger has received too many awards to list here, but here's just a few. The National Association of Theater Owners named him International Star of the Decade in 1993. In both 1991 and 1997, he received the Simon Wiesenthal Center's National Leadership Award for supporting the organization's Holocaust studies. He won the Show West Humanitarian of the Year Award in 1997. In 1998, his towering box office success garnered him the American Cinematheque Award. In 2000, Boys and Girls Town gave him the Father Flanagan Service to Youth Award. In 2001, he was given the International World Sports Awards' highest honor, the Lifetime Achievement Award, plus the Taurus Honorary Award by the World Stunt Awards organization. In 2002, he was proud to be presented the Muhammad Ali Humanitarian Award by Ali himself, a longtime friend and sports mentor. And Los Angeles Mayor James Hahn chose Arnold to light the Olympic cauldron during the countrywide torch run for the summer 2002 Olympics. Over the years, he's been awarded honorary degrees, the University of Wisconsin's honorary doctorate, Vienna's Imedek University's honorary doctorate in business administration, and Chapman University's doctorate of humane letters for his work with Special Olympics as well as after-school programs. He's also a well-respected investor and entrepreneur and producer of the Arnold Classic World Bodybuilding Championships, a 4-day bodybuilding and fitness event that attracts almost 100,000 people to Columbus, Ohio every year. It includes the Arnold Strongman Competition, the Powerlifting World Championship, the Karate World Cup Championship, and a contest for disabled competitors. Schwarzenegger is also the author of many best-selling fitness books, including Arnold, The Education of a Bodybuilder, and 2 volumes of the Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding. He's done all this while putting his family first. His wife, broadcast journalist Maria Shriver, and his children Catherine, Christina, Patrick, and Christopher are the center of his life. From his humble beginnings in a little Austrian village to his accomplishments in the worlds of competitive bodybuilding, Hollywood, business, fitness education, and helping disadvantaged children, Arnold Schwarzenegger always expects the best from himself and inspires the best in others. He's always been grateful to America for providing him with so many opportunities for success. And he continues to believe in giving back to the country that's given so very much to him.
Long before the phrase pumping iron became part of our everyday fitness vocabulary, It was the title of a low-budget documentary that would defy the odds to become a cult classic. On the 25th anniversary of that film, Cinemax presents the story behind the making of Pumping Iron, the film that introduced the world to a charismatic 28-year-old bodybuilding champion known as Arnold. With never-before-seen outtakes from the film,
the only thing that's left is Arnold's bullshit.
as well as candid comments from the cast and crew 25 years after the film was released.
At the time when I first saw it, I was like mortified, saying, oh my God.
I went overboard many times.
We were really struggling to get the movie made, and people were laughing at us.
Cinemax presents a tale of sweat, muscle, ego, and glory in the golden age of bodybuilding. Raw Iron, the making of Pumping Iron. February, Columbus, Ohio. Arnold Schwarzenegger is in town for the Arnold Classic, the annual bodybuilding competition he's produced since 1976. Along with Mr. Olympia, it's the premier contest in the sport. Bodybuilding has come a long way since Pumping Iron was released in 1977. The contestants are bigger than ever, and so is the stage show. The Arnold Classic is an extravaganza to rival any big-ticket rock concert. And bodybuilding's become big-ticket too. These days, more than 175,000 bodybuilders compete in 169 countries. Today, Schwarzenegger is here to hand out more than $400,000 in prizes. But he's also here to see some old friends who have gathered backstage. Many of the original bodybuilders from the Pumping Iron era. Bill Grant, Ed Corney, Mike Katz, Franco Columbu, and Lou Ferrigno.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you. Terrific.
There was camaraderie. We helped each other. We trained each other. We were a part of a family.
Where's your son? Where's Michael?
Right there.
Michael, come over here.
Good.
Michael.
How's it going? Okay, good to see you.
25 years ago, we saw in Pumping Iron, we saw the little Michael. He was 3 years old. And then he made you pose. Remember, he made you hit shots.
Ooh, it's hard. Feel this muscle, how hard that is.
Just everyone is so huge. What's going on here? I'm the...
Still got it. 25 years.
Can you believe that?
Pumping Iron. It changed my whole life.
Are you going to give him all the wrong advices?
It's not that hard for me to give him the wrong advices.
No, only the right advice.
It was so much fun and enthusiasm.
Great. Oh.
It was incredible.
Let me tell you, she said, now she's her mother talking about my mother. He's talking about pumping up.
He's talking about pumping up. He's talking about psyching me out. You couldn't shut me up then. You can't shut me up now. No, it's always the same. Nothing has changed.
Whenever I think back on the Pumping Iron days in the 1975 when we did this movie, I definitely miss it.
Back before Pumping Iron, he was known as the Austrian Oak, but he was unknown outside the marginal and misunderstood sport called competitive bodybuilding.
It was a tiny little world, and 300 people would come to the contest that night. They would go crazy over Arnold Schwarzenegger, so he was king of 300 people.
Wow.
It's just that Arnold hadn't burst out of that world yet.
Photographer